Hello there, it's just a day to Valentine's. Hello again and welcome to News Desk with me, MFA Akosia Adeti. We're coming to you from our studios here in Kokomlemle. We're live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 125 and all of our social media handles at Joy News TV and around the world as myjoyonline.com. Welcome. Our headlines this morning. Attorney General justifies the discontinuation of some high-profile cases. We focus on the case of Dr. Johnson Isiamat, former Deputy Governor of BOG, and the Saglemi case. We have details as the minority disagrees with the justification. Also this morning, we're asking, where is the Kantamanto money?
Also need help. They should come to our aid because we lost everything in the fire. We keep our goods in the markets and we lost even more than some of the traders inside.
And a little later, don't panic, we're in control. Health Minister assures Upper West residents amid CSM outbreak. We've got these plus business on our desk this morning. Many thanks for choosing us. Please stay for details. Welcome back. Now, first this morning, the Minister of Health, Parliamentary has assured residents of the Upper West region not to panic over the recent surge in cerebrospinal meningitis, which you know are CSM cases in the area. Addressing the press after concluding a working visit to the region, the minister stated that the situation was under control, emphasizing that adequate logistics, vaccines and antibiotics had been deployed to combat the disease. So far, the Upper West region has recorded 94 suspected cases, 19 confirmed cases and 14 that due to CSM. Honorable Akando urged individuals experiencing symptoms of the disease to seek early medical attention at healthcare facilities to prevent complications. Joy News Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam has more in this report.
Health Minister Kantamanto Akando, accompanied by the Acting Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Professor Samuel Kaba Akure, and other high-profile personalities from the service, first engaged in a closed-door meeting with the management members of the Upper West.
Going forward, we are going to provide whatever it takes to be able to contain this disease. For now, we have brought some number of items. The antibiotics they are using, we have brought enough. And the directive is that anybody who suspects, whether you are sneezing, coughing, you have neck stiffness, you must rush quickly to the nearest health facility, and that person will be taken care of free of charge.
Upper West Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Damien Powiri, then laid bare the situation updates on meningitis in the region.
Largely the cases that have been confirmed so far, we have 20 confirmed. One type of organism, strep pneumo, is what is causing the problem. And only the other type is the Neisseria meningitis case. So that is the situation in the region.
The health minister then rolled out of town and headed to the Nodolo-Kaleo district, which is referred to as the epicenter of the disease. He met management and staff of the Nodolo-Kaleo district hospital and also interact with a student battling with the disease. Acting Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Professor Samuel Kaba Akure, urged staff to commit themselves to working to deliver quality health care to the people.
Let's come together. Let's work hard in the communities. I know this is a dangerous moment. If we don't work hard, our children will lose our children. I could have been one of those gone. Let's make sure that no child dies. No one dies because of this meningitis, because of this outbreak. And together, we will make sure that we have a big progress in this country when it comes to the health sector.
Health Minister Kantamanto Akanda on his part stated that he was happy with what he saw in his rounds and urged the people of the region not to panic, for the situation is under control.
We have clear instructions from His Excellency the President that whatever it takes to contain the outbreak, we should do to contain the outbreak. And so we are going to do more. What is very important is that the number of deaths is drastically reducing. In fact, for the past 1 week, we've not recorded any death at all in the region, and that is very positive. Even, in fact, the suspected cases are also drastically reducing.
He ended the tour at the Queen of Peace Senior High School at Nadoli and the Upper House Regional Hospital. He poured encomiums and laudations on the staff of the hospital for their commitment to work. He, however, was unhappy about the unprofessional conduct of some health personnel, admonishing them to change over a new leaf. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Well, the minority in Parliament has taken on Special Prosecutor Kisi Ejabin for going after former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. The former minister was declared wanted by the OSP yesterday. The NPP accused the Special Prosecutor of being politically motivated, but the NDC side has been pushing back. There's more in the following report by our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante.
The decision by Special Prosecutor Kisi Ejabin to declare the former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta wanted has drawn criticism from the NPP side in Parliament. There was an urgent statement delivered by Habib Idrisu, the first Deputy Minority Whip, who criticized the Special Prosecutor for being politically motivated in his actions.
To express my profound concern to the formally condemn the recent action taken by the Office of the Special Prosecutor in declaring Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta a wanted fugitive. The basis for this declaration rests solely on the assertion that Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta has not responded to requests to appear before the OSP in person. The implication of this incident extends beyond the individual involved. They strike at the very heart of our nation's commitment to justice, accountability, and the rule of law. When institutions like the OSP deviate from their mandate and operate in a matter that appears arbitrarily, they jeopardize our collective effort to build a society based on fairness and respect for the rights of all citizens.
But the NDC side have been hitting back. According to John Jinapor and Isaac Adongo, there is nothing political about the decision taken by the Special Prosecutor.
Very simple matter. You are scared of it. Mr. Speaker, let me explain something. The OSP has declared Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta as a fugitive. As a fugitive. Mr. Speaker, in our local language, fugitive, in our local language, it means that Wadenua Kamura. Or, to put it simply, wajibam. That in our country, the biggest perceived enemy of our economy is being defended the way my colleagues are doing. And everybody knows. The Public Financial Management Act is very clear that you cannot commit this state to a multi-year contract without the Minister for Finance. Without the Minister for Finance himself issuing a commencement certificate. And yet, after he issued a commencement certificate, he was still drawing on contingency fund as if he didn't know about the project. And he thought that you could do that as long as you want.
But Dominic Nitiwo really believes that the practice of using soldiers and national security operatives to raid the home of former government officials is something that should be criticized.
My brother, you don't use soldiers to raid somebody's home in a democracy. Yes.
While delivering his remark, Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin called on the political class to unite and fight matters like this.
We are not sending the right signal to our electorate. Mr. Speaker, the man has put the state on notice of his absence from the jurisdiction. to support this call in bringing sanity in the country so that nobody will take advantage to unleash any violence on anybody.
Mahama Ayariga believes the argument that the political class must unite to fight what is clearly the push for accountability is not something that is right.
Several times there was a referral to a group known as a political class. And several times a call on members of the political class not to do this to each other. And what do we mean by let's not do this to each other? Let's not, when there is a change in government, try to hold each other accountable this way or that way. I take a position that, indeed, the reason why the voters go and vote for one political party as against the other is so that they will come and hold each other accountable. The day that we stop holding each other accountable, that will be the day the electorate will lose confidence in this democracy.
This debate nearly degenerated into some chaos on the floor of Parliament, especially as the majority leader did warn at the start that this could lead to certain comments being made against the former finance minister that would disparage his reputation. Again, the point was made that a special prosecutor is an independent organ of state that is actually doing its work, and Parliament should not be seen as interfering in it.
Their shops are gone, their goods are gone, their livelihoods reduced to ashes. This is the plight of over 8,000 traders at Kantamanto market. Still, rallying from the devastating fire more than a month ago, despite 2.8 million cedis in relief funds being secured. Not a single cedi has reached them. The frustration of the traders is mounting and patience is running thin. Sarah Mensah has more in this report.
It's been over a month since fire ravaged Kantamanto market. Over 30,000 traders were affected. The fire devoured more than 7,000 shops, reducing livelihoods to ashes. Today, hope remains elusive as the traders await the promised relief.
We haven't received anything. I haven't received any donation. So don't tell me that I have received money. I haven't received any donation.
Donation by 1 cedi. Say 15 million. Because almost you know a patent no who's open because yes she I was here for so near pescano it's your quiet director been a cheers can my because ye be minister I've lost 1.6 billion.
Auntie Maggie has been here for over 15 years, selling in the heart of the market. Her voice shakes as she recalls the disaster.
They said they are coming to donate something for us. We have learned, we have seen that they have come to donate something. We have not received anything. We have not received anything. They collected 10 million from me before they gave me this stake and the ceiling. The rest of the things like you are saying, we have to do it ourselves. I don't have anything. The best thing I think the leaders should do is, when they come, we have lost our things, they should let us sit in our sheds so that they divide the money to us. But the way things are going, it is very pathetic. We are suffering.
Desperation runs deep. Many traders like Maggie have borrowed money to rebuild. But outside the market, those without sheds face an even grimmer reality. Holy Ghost, who sells just outside the market, feels she's being left out of the recovery efforts.
Because
Say omo wa inside ebi mu mpo ya nyama siche omo ba mu nyomba njiji sika double wo kose la na ya pamu say oni apata wa inside yentro udi ma.
Some traders have already begun rebuilding on their own. Despite the lack of aid, they claim discrimination and they feel abandoned. But the leadership insists they're doing everything they can. Michael Obeng, chairman of the largest trader group and member of the 9-member committee overseeing relief, believes progress is being made.
Yenyi obi akapre. Sika omutuaye aye workmanship. Carpenter for sika omudi ede bon chance ni New York ni go so on. Me am no ka se 150 Ghana cedis. Lane so bi 150 Ghana cedis. Na cost 3000 Ghana cedis. For Libya na etua de carpenter for no. Yenyi obi adua sika. Na mo se panimu bi na se pani bi agi sika oba bi anya ye ha.
Over 2.8 million cedis in donations have been received by the committee. But for the thousands who lost everything, hope is running thin.
By the close of the month in there, let me say a year joining in a year. Now, the chess kada every crop enu. I see 2 one. Ama mason for no I estimate at the my number of blocks I beg you so, number of cement I beg you so. The winning in a year, a betche. Say you crop part, so on my 10 billion, which is 1 million Ghana cedis in the year. A betche, at the amo be then never can. A cat, the amount for the betche chayano. I had a year Jumano, as you wear your bonus for conta, and that can be asono. Ya chair at the amount and 24 points will be up and coto and footum, if you are footum, maybe be a camera.
As the traders wait for relief, they continue to rebuild piece by piece with borrowed money and fading patience. As time drags on, the fire's scars remain, not just on the market's walls, but on the lives of those struggling to rebuild. Sarah Mentor's report, read to you.
Well, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Dr. Ayine, has defended his decision to drop charges against former Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, and former Minister for Works and Housing, Collins Dauda, citing legal and ethical concerns. Addressing the media in Accra yesterday, he disclosed that an internal memo from the prosecution's division had previously advised against prosecuting Dr. Isiama, as the 150 million Ghana cedis in question was being serviced by Universal Merchant Bank. He criticized the previous administration for ignoring this recommendation, stating that ethical prosecution must be based on clear evidence, not speculation.
Took the decision to withdraw the charges against Mr. Johnson Pundit Asiama for a simple reason that in the course of my review of the cases, my attention was drawn to an internal memo prepared by the prosecution division of our department for the attention of the former Attorney General, the Honorable Godfrey Yeboadame, which recommended that the charges against him be dropped. This is very significant. This is an internal memo prepared by professional prosecutors advising the Attorney General that the charges against our current Bank of Ghana, the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, be dropped. Note that Mr. Johnson Pundit Asiama was charged with contravention of the Banking Act for granting a facility of 300 million cedis to Universal Merchant Bank and for causing financial loss to the state in the sum of 150 million Ghana cedis. The internal memo, which I just cited earlier, concluded as follows. This is very instructive. It says, a study of the facts of the case indicates that the initial facility of 300 million has been recovered, leaving 150 million outstanding. This office has confirmed from the Bank of Ghana, that is, the Attorney General's office has confirmed from the Bank of Ghana through Mr. Alexander Tarr, that is PW2, prosecution witness 2, that the interest from the outstanding amount is presently being serviced by UMB Bank. Mr. Tar also indicated that UMB has an amount of 150 million locked up with CBG, that is Consolidated Bank, Ghana. It is expected that when the said sum is released to UMB, the loan amount for which A3, that is Johnson Pundit Asiama, was charged with causing financial loss to the state will be repaid to the Bank of Ghana. This therefore may render the charges proffered against A3, that is Johnson Asiama,
And on the Saglemi housing case, Dr. Anyine argued that the charges against Collins Dauda were flawed. He pointed out that the prosecution failed to account for the fact that the $200 million in question had been used to construct housing units, making the allegation of misapplying public funds legally unsound. He also highlighted that subsequent ministers had approved payments under the same project, further complicating the claim against Dauda. The Attorney General emphasized his commitment to justice, stating that prosecution must be based on solid evidence, not political pressure. He assured the public that his decisions were made after thorough consultation and legal review.
The second reason why I dropped the charges in some of the cases, as I stated above, is that the charges were defective and upon careful scrutiny were filed against the promptings of plain common sense. In the case of Republic versus Collins Dauda and others, for instance, the first accused was charged with misapplying public funds to the tune of 200 million United States of American dollars. In laying the charges, the prosecution failed or neglected to take account of the basic fact that it was part of that 200 million US dollars that was used to construct the houses at Saglemi. In other words, the value of that built environment is, in my considered opinion, a key determinant of how much of the total sum was allegedly misapplied by the Honorable Collins Dauda. Discounting the value of the built environment renders those charges, in my considered opinion, defective. The prosecution in this case also failed or neglected to take account of payments that were made by other ministers who took office after the Honorable Collins Dauda. For instance, the Honorable Atachia, as Minister of Works and Housing, approved a payment to the tune of 5 million United States of American dollars in 2017. That ought to have been considered in determining the value of state funds that the Honorable Collins Dauda had misapplied. But that wasn't done. And note, ladies and gentlemen of the media, that the Honorable Atachia was never charged, even though the Honorable Collins Dauda was charged subsequent to the actions of the Honorable Atachia.
Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for Mensha North, Lawyer Balfour, has, however, tied it into the rationale of the Attorney General. Now, he says that Dominic Anyine discontinuing the cases. Well, listen to him as he makes his case on the Johnson Isiama and the Saglemi Housing Project.
The problem is that the charge sheet is defective.
Yeah.
Because the amount which is stated as having been lost, right, he does not think is correct because some houses have been built. And so they ought to have, in a nutshell, done evaluation of the amount spent and deducted that from the amount, given, and come to the conclusion that this is how much has been lost, rather than stating the entirety of the contract sum as having been lost. In other words, because there are houses which have been built, you cannot say that the entirety of the contract sum has been lost. That is his argument.
Yeah.
Good. So he does not dispute the fact that some amount has been lost, except that you cannot say that the entirety of the contract sum has been lost. So how much have been lost?
I don't think I agree with my friend on that.
No, but if he finishes the point, sorry, forgive me, I will let you come in.
So how much has been lost?
Okay.
How much has been lost can be determined through proper valuation. And so if it is the amount which is stated on the charge sheet as having been lost, which you disagree with, it doesn't make the charge defective. Or even if you agree that, even if you say it is defective, it is curable through amendment of the charge sheet to put down the amount which has been lost. Unless you want to say that no money has been lost from the Saglemi project.
Okay.
Well, let's go on the phone lines and speak to Andrew Appiah-Dankwa. He's a lawyer and spokesperson for Movement for Change. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let's have some legal conversation this morning, as lawyer Nana Balfour is not the only person who thinks that Inoli Prosecui in discontinuing these cases is not the best option. In fact, Professor Ansah Asari also thinks the same, thinks that Inoli Prosecui is not the best option. First off, you have followed both arguments, the Attorney General and the minority as well, and many others who are watching us today. What's your legal position on the discontinuation of these two cases particularly?
Yeah, so let me take this opportunity to wish you good morning. I wish your listeners good morning. I just wanted to listen to arguments advanced by the Attorney General and also to that advice by Honorable. And I tend to agree that this argument, Honorable Papua, because the purpose of this is to punish for some law. And I think the argument that because the amount of and because of that, you think that the judge.
Well, unfortunately, we can barely hear you. If you can just reposition yourself, and then we can hear you clearly. Okay. We're trying to connect properly with Andrew Appiah-Dankwa. He is a private legal practitioner, so that he gives us a bit of clarity on the argument that the Attorney General shouldn't really have proceeded on discontinuing the case. Some argue that he should have amended the charge sheet at least because some financial losses have been recorded, rather than ending the case or discontinuing it at all. Let me see if I still have lawyer on and the network is well connected. If you can hear me, please advance your argument.
Hello.
Yes. Thank you. Quite clear. Please go on.
So I'll say that I tend to agree with the argument being advanced by Honorable Babua, especially as the purpose of the offense is to punish for a loss. So then the issue is whether or not there has been a loss. And it's not exactly the quantum of the loss. So then if the issue is that because they are houses, then there's a fact with the
oh no. Unfortunately, unfortunately the network is still not. Let's try again. Well, unfortunately, we're unable to bring you. We'll try again and see if we can connect with him to give us some clarity on that. But let's probably go back to the argument that Nana Balfour is advancing about this position.
Pandit Asiama, in or about September 2016 in Accra, in the Greater Accra region, granted a facility in the sum of 300 million to Universal Bank for the benefit of Unibank Ghana Limited. This is it. 300 million to Universal Bank, Merchant Bank, for the benefit of Unibank Ghana Limited, without satisfying the prescribed conditions set out in the Bank of Ghana Act. Let's break it down. Because for every offense, right, there are elements that you need to satisfy. And so for the prosecution to succeed in the prosecution of this matter, the first element they needed to establish is whether or not the period in question, Mr. Johnson Asiama indeed advanced a loan of 300 million to UMB for the benefit of Unibank Ghana Limited. That's the first element. That's the first element. So when the Attorney General was speaking, he said it was an amount of 350 million, right? Of which 200 million was in the case of UT and 150 was in the case of Unibank. No. The facts as filed by the AG's office, the facts, the charge sheet as filed by the AG's office in the Unibank matter shows otherwise. First point we need to know or make is that the charges against them is not only willfully causing financial loss to the state.
Okay.
There's also a charge of breach of fiduciary trust. There's also that charge. That charge is not hinged, or the success of that charge, right, in terms of the prosecution, it's not dependent on the recovery of the amount or not. No. It says that he breached provisions of the Bank of Ghana Act, right? He breached provisions of the Bank of Ghana Act because there are conditions he needed to satisfy in advancing the money, which he didn't satisfy. The AG did not address us on that, conveniently. What is the opinion of the prosecutors on this matter, on this particular charge? Because, for me, it is very important that we get to know the position of the Attorney General on this particular charge, which he conveniently omitted in terms of his address, because the man is now at the Bank of Ghana as governor. If as deputy governor, he was breaching very important provisions of the Bank of Ghana Act, what is he going to do as governor?
Well, let's try again and reconnect with lawyer Andrew Appiah Dankwa, and he's been arguing that he seems to agree with the position taken by Nana Bafwewa. If you can hear me, please advance your argument and then see if you can also address his current position on the procedural breach by the then Deputy Governor, Bank of Ghana Governor.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
So can you hear me now?
Yes, quite clear. Thank you.
So I was saying that I think I agree with you that since the reports of the offense.
I'm sorry. I was hoping that this time around it would be better, but unfortunately, it looks like the network is not favoring both myself and lawyer this morning. But we promised to bring you a lot more details in this conversation that we have just started to see whether or not those who are agreeing that the Attorney General really shouldn't have ended or discontinued the cases, but rather amend the charges and start the case freshly. But we'll try and see if we'll get him back. But moving on, the Ashanti Regional Minister, Dr. Frank Amakohene, has indicated that police and national security have commenced investigations into the disruption of the Council of State election in the region. Some thugs on Tuesday invaded the venue of the poll to disrupt the process, beating some journalists covering the elections. Meanwhile, former Obuasi MC Ufori Ajitman has denied any association with the thugs who led the disruption of the election. Nana Yaojima has more in the following report.
According to the Ashanti Regional Director of the Electoral Commission, staff of the commission who supervised the election escaped unhurt. However, 3 staff of the EC were injured in an attack in the office. They have since been treated and discharged.
One of them suffered some cuts and said they hit his head against the wall. So we have to rush him to hospital for some scan to determine whether there's anything behind that. So, I mean, per the reports, we have said that the guy is safe. Everything that we took to the center was destroyed by the thugs. So nothing came back from the center.
Mr. Oseinsia emphasized that a report on the incident has been sent to the EC headquarters, where a decision will be taken.
We've submitted a report to the commission, so we are waiting the commission to decide the way forward. So commission, maybe by close of the day, commission will issue some communique.
Meanwhile, the campaign team of one of the candidates, Rose Hamilton, was at the Electoral Commission office to visit staff who were targets of the attack. Dr. Kesken Ousupoku led the team.
So we are hoping that the EC would come out and explain clearly to the good people of Ashanti region what the processes are. In addition, we saw a report by the police. We're also expecting that the police would take their security operations a step higher, because this is becoming one too many.
The regional minister, Dr. Frank Amwakohene, in a statement, condemned the attack, indicating such incidents undermine democracy. He has directed the police and national security to thoroughly investigate the issue and prosecute persons found culpable. Meanwhile, former municipal chief executive for Boase, Ofori Ajiman, has denied any association with thugs who led the disruption of the election.
Bring him. Just as I was ushering him to the events ground, this gentleman, who everybody says come from Obuasi, came to stand by me. And at this point in time, nobody will expect that, being a leader of the party, some people will come close to you and you send them away. I was there. They came close to me. I was watching the gentleman I had brought to come and vote. Immediately he voted. I left with him because I promised him that when he comes, I was going to find transportation for him to go back to Kemeo. Immediately he came. I left with them. It was after I had seen him off that I got to the place and I saw one of the contestants, Mr. Gabriel Yenchi, and Nana Nkasa Bodu in an argument. I didn't know what they were talking about. So my name being associated with it gives me cause to worry.
For Joy News, Nana Yaojima reporting.
Ashanti region, let's bring you back to the Attorney General's justification and reconnect again to lawyer Andrew Appiah-Dankwa. If you can hear me, I'm trying my luck for the last time to see if you are able to advance your arguments as to why you support Nana Bafo-Awuah on this.
So I'm hearing loud and clear. I think the matter is pretty simple.
Oh. I'm sorry. I'm sure you thought that I tried my luck, right? But I promised that we'll bring you this discussion in a subsequent bulletin. But we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, business, please stay.
Are still under consideration.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darrell Kwao. The World Bank has cautioned Ghana over any consideration for a return to the international capital market anytime soon. The World Bank, in its Ghana Public Financial Review report, revealed Ghana's expenditure grew faster than the growth rate recorded in the last 12 years, with 70% of it dedicated to public wages, interest payment, and earmarked statutory funds. Meanwhile, the World Bank Country Director, Robert O'Brien, is asking government to be fiscally disciplined. He was speaking at the launch of the report.
Reports from the World Bank explore the critical role of effective fiscal policies and public financial management in achieving sustainable and equitable economic growth. World Bank Country Director Robert Taliosio said a premature return to the international market could send the wrong signals to the market and a reversal to unsustainable borrowing costs.
As a point of history, Ghana has requested a record of 17 IMF programs, and as a result, the country has been in IMF programs for 40 out of its 68 years of history. So I think this does drive home the point about not returning to business as usual, but moving on. A premature return to international capital markets could send the wrong signal and reverse unsustainable, and also a reversal to unsustainable borrowing costs. I think it's critically important at this juncture in Ghana's history from the World Bank perspective that it sends strong signals about credible reforms and including structural reforms going forward. That would be the really great signal to send.
He further indicated that a not fully completion of the adjustment program reducing debt to GDP ratio to 55% by 2028 could jeopardize the credibility of policy reforms and the fundamentals for long-term growth.
Not fully completing the adjustment program, that is reducing debt to GDP to 55% by 2028, could jeopardize the credibility of policy reforms and the fundamentals for long-term growth. Hence, it's important to initiate a reset, as His Excellency President Mahama has said, to maintain momentum and stay the course with the ongoing reforms while deepening efforts in specific areas. One of those areas is strengthening fiscal discipline to ensure that effective expenditure management and control. Government expenditure grew faster than GDP between 2010 to 2022, and about 70% of this growth was dedicated to public wages, interest payments, and earmarked statutory funds. Another key priority is boosting domestic revenue collection to enlarge fiscal space. Collected revenue as a share of GDP fell to 13% by 2021.
The World Bank is asking government to address the growing fiscal liabilities from SOEs, namely in the energy and cocoa sectors. James Eshen's report for Joy Business.
In other news, local textile producers are asking government to continue efforts by the previous administration to deal with issues of piracy in the industry. Speaking to journalists after the Minister of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry paid a working visit to some producers in Tema, Managing Director of Textiles Ghana Limited, producers of GTP Woodin and Vlisco Prints, Kojo Jenim Boateng, highlighted the challenge as a major setback for the local industry. Here's more.
The visit by the Trade, Agribusiness and Industry Minister began at the Free Zones Enclave. She examined the work of the apparel manufacturing firm DTRT Group, which produces for the international market. She expressed willingness to replicate the concept nationwide to create jobs and decrease Ghana's unemployment rate.
We are interested in industrialization, and we have also taken an interest in exports. So we are here to visit this industry to see what they do. In fact, we invited them to our offices to get first-hand information about what they do. They are employing about 6,000 people. Exim Bank has helped them previously, and we want to see how we will even help them to do more. We've also discussed how we will replicate this in some of the regions, all in our bid to create more jobs.
At Textiles Ghana Limited, the minister engaged with the managing director, Kojo Jenim Boateng, who assured her of partnering with government to create more jobs. He further called on the Trade and Industry Minister to address the long-standing challenge of piracy in the industry.
Really happy that the minister is here. We've had a lot of fruitful discussion with her. We are very optimistic that the ministry is going to support us in the coming period to fight the numerous challenges that we are faced with. So this is exciting times ahead for us. Thank you very much for coming.
What are the issues that you raised with them?
The major challenges that we have is more to do with the piracy, the counterfeits that is on the market at the moment. We're looking at the tax stamp that we've introduced. It is our wish and hope that the minister will push the agenda forward, largely to get a task force to fight this on the market for us. So this is the biggest one that we have on our plate.
Acting Managing Director for Ghana Exim Bank, Sylvester Mensah, assured that the bank will assess challenges presented by the companies and make the necessary interventions.
The whole agenda is to create jobs for the people of this country. Exim Bank is here in collaboration with the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry to visit and familiarize with the key challenges and to look at the viability of most of these industries and to determine which priority areas to, as it were, support in order to expand and create the needed jobs for the people of this country. And so, depending on what we see, depending on our review, our analysis of the numbers and what works best for this country in terms of job creation, Exim Bank will come in handy.
The DTRT Group currently employs about 6,000 youth at its ultra-molding factory in the Free Zones Enclave.
All right, and that's it for this segment. As always, more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Lack of fiscal discipline plunged Ghana into full-fledged crisis in 2022. That's according to the World Bank. Also, rushing back to capital markets could be costly. World Bank warns Ghana. We told you about that. myjoyonline.com/business. Handing you back to MFA. Hey, before you hit me, what are you doing for Val's Day?
No, that's not fair because tomorrow is Val's Day. What are you doing for our wife?
Ah,
This question is on behalf of all women. What are you doing for our wife?
Still trying to figure it out.
It's
something
tomorrow,
different.
Sir.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay, this assurance.
Am I permitted to ask you
Sorry?
ask you what you're doing tomorrow? Okay, no, okay. Yeah, well, the ladies, they think that. Well, it should be both ways. So.
No, because you have a ring on your finger, it's a very legitimate question to ask you. On behalf of our wife.
Touché.
Got it. Right, Dara, thank you for bringing us business. However, that'll be all for today on Newsdesk. However, do log on to myjoyonline.com and you'd find a lot of stories. You'd also find Pegbu demands answers from special prosecutor over case delays. You'd also follow the story of how Dr. Ayine has been justifying the discontinuation of sub-cases right there. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Daryl,
all right.
I will hold you accountable. Tomorrow's Val's Day. I'll see you at midday. Do stay with us.